Hello, everyone. Welcome back to, I believe this is episode 12 of our podcast. Today we have Nick Frumkin on as a guest with us. Many of you might know him from his podcast series with Matt Murray or from online on Facebook and many of the groups. So, Nick, if you want to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Hi, I'm Nick. I sell insurance for a living. I don't know. I don't know who all would know who I am and who doesn't. I do a YouTube show with Matthew Murray, the insurance panel. We're on a little bit of a hiatus because everybody got busy, and then our producer got like a job for ESPN. But we're working on getting that back together. And otherwise, I hang out and have opinions that people don't like about selling final expense insurance.
That is the best one-liner to start off 9:30 on a Friday. Opinions other people don't like.
That's okay. It's okay. I've recently been trying to avoid getting into fights with people who have strong opinions that are different than mine because there's no real point. But I feel like most of the people who speak very loudly about how to sell final expense on Facebook, at the very least, have really bad ideas, and you shouldn't listen to most of them. Chris being an exception. Chris has good ideas, but I've always liked Chris. Chris used to be on the insurance panel show, so yeah, that's not what we were planning on talking about. But yeah, there's some terrible ideas out there. Don't listen to most of what you hear.
That's true. Joe, what were we supposed to talk about?
So basically, how you can separate building a team from succeeding as an individual agent, which is something that you do see online, where a lot of agents will say the first thing you need to do is recruit 20 people, or you don't even know how to sell yourself yet, which is something that can work for some people in some situations, but I think the majority of the time it can, for roll-up distraction reasons, it can present a lot of issues. So maybe Nick, you've been same thing as Chris, a very prolific individual producer, and without feeling the need to build a team.
Yeah. So part of the reason why I started selling final expense was because I didn't want to build a team anymore. My first job in the industry, I worked for an insurance company as a captive agent, and part of their model was getting you to build a team within 18 months of signing a contract. And they actually put you through training on how to recruit, and they did a whole bunch of stuff. But one of the things that you learned was that if you were working for this particular company, something like 90%, I don't remember the statistic anymore because it's been 9 years, but something like 90% of the agents who don't start building a team end up crashing out of the industry. And that was true only for them. And part of the reason why that was true was because their business model was difficult. Their business model was you don't get leads. If you were caught purchasing leads, you would get fired. And you would go around and cold call either by phone or preferably face-to-face by yourself or with your team, and canvas neighborhoods, knocking on people's doors and selling insurance to whoever answered the door. And that's really hard. And it's a slog. And the goal every single day was to introduce yourself to 30 new people. Of those 30 people, 10 would let you give a presentation. And of those 10 who let you give a presentation, you would hope to sell 1 to 2. That was the math. That was how it worked. And you do that 6 days a week and you take Sunday off. And so, yeah, building a team and getting put on a $75,000 a year base salary and making a 10% override on your team's production seemed really, really enticing until you actually started to do it. And then you realized that if business fell off the books, your override went away. And if somebody left the business, their debt rolled up to you. And almost everybody that I knew who was building a team with that company was making less money as a team builder than the people who were successfully selling insurance under the regular model. And it was a grind, and I really hated it. I hated taking people out for ride-alongs. I hated interviewing people. I hated trying to talk to every person that I ever met who might even have a little bit of an interest in selling insurance into coming and working for me. I did not like any of it. And so the reason why I ended up going with the independent outfit that I ended up going with was I talked to like 5 different IMOs before I left and went independent. And at each of the 5 IMOs, I told kind of my story of what my situation was and where I was coming from and, you know, how much I'd produced and what I knew how to do already. And everybody except for one was like, fantastic. You have all these team building skills. We can get you a team built under you in 6 months and you will be making crazy amounts of money. And I just didn't want to babysit. I didn't want to have to answer people's questions. I didn't want to have to take phone calls at like 9 o'clock at night. I didn't want to have to answer phone calls on the weekends. I didn't want to deal with their roll-up debt or feel personal stress about their success or failure. Realistically, that's actually the thing that was the worst for me. If I had an agent and they were doing badly, I would lose sleep. And I was already working 80 hours a week. I didn't have a lot of sleep to lose. So I came out saying, you know, I've got to figure out a way to do this where you don't need to build a team to be successful. And it turns out you don't if you're selling final expense. I can't speak for other product lines. I haven't spent enough time selling other product lines to know. But for final expense, you absolutely don't need to build a downline. And for most people, I would recommend against it. I've long had kind of a provocative opinion that you should not start recruiting people unless you have personally sold $1 million of final expense premium on your own pen. That's a little bit of an outrageous statement. I think a lot of times when I say that, people think I mean $1 million in a year, which I don't. Like lifetime production. The $1 million though is really just a stand-in for experience. If you don't know what you're doing, I don't know how you're going to teach anybody else how to do a final expense sale. Final expense is not the easy slam dunk sale that everybody online will tell you that it is. It's probably the most highly sales skill dependent of the insurance sales. You need to have more actual sales skills in order to successfully sell final expense than you do in most other product lines. I'm not going to say all, I can't, but in most other product lines. Because you're selling to people who have met with 6 or 7 agents before, who don't really want to talk to you, who don't really have any money to spend, and you're trying to talk them into spending ideally like $100 to $120 a month on a funeral policy that they're never going to see any benefit from. That is 100%, as Transamerica says, a gift of love. And that's not easy to do if you don't have actual sales skills. And if you haven't mastered those skills, I don't know how you're going to teach anybody anything. And if you're not teaching anybody anything, I don't know how you deserve the override that you're earning. Just because you told somebody about an opportunity does not give you the right to make 20% off of them and frankly hold their commission levels down for the rest of their lives. So yeah. So that's a start. Who has opinions?
Yeah. I got 2 to go along with that, and then I guess I'll throw some counter perspective in there.
Yeah, sure. You muted yourself.
Yeah, Chris, I think yeah, there you go.
Yeah, sorry about that. We got some background noise here. It's been a busy day at the house. So,
yeah,
Joe, talk for a second.
Yes, so I agree with a lot of what you said, especially from what I've seen on Facebook, because you see people ask these questions, and then people who I know are recruiting other agents making posts will answer the question, and it's just something out of like right field, like someone who had cancer 3 years ago
Mhm.
and someone asks, what do I do? And there's 6 people in the comments saying AIG. And I try not to be derogatory. Some of the times, like I don't try to promote the toolkit or anything. I just give an answer. I give a screenshot like, hey, there's 16 options you can use that are not guaranteed issue.
Oh yeah.
And then, but it's so hard because it's I could spend all day just scrolling through and just commenting on like, do not listen to anyone else who's replied. You can go level with this carrier. And that's, I think, the thing that, from my perspective, aggravates me the most. Because if you're going to go online, provide unsolicited advice to someone else who might take your advice and take a huge commission cut, get replaced, I don't know how that would be regulated at all, but that makes me really upset. Because if that was me when I started, I would be listening to those people and making bad decisions.
Or like, I mean, so somebody who has a lot of respect and clout on some of these Facebook groups said the other day that that on your way to your first appointment, never having met a prospect before, you're going to a final expense sale, you've set an appointment. On your way to that appointment, it's a really good idea to give them a call on your way there and say, hey, Mildred, I'm swinging by the grocery store. I got to pick up some stuff for myself. You want anything? And he said 9 times out of 10, they'll say no, but 10 times out of 10, they'll remember that you were generous and be grateful forever and love you forever and invite you to their kids' birthday parties and barbecues and picnics. And 1, no, they won't. 2, I don't think I want that, even if it was true. And 3, what if they say yes? Like, and now I've got to go like swing by and pick up a bottle of like aspirin for Mildred. And 4, who's got that kind of time? 5, if you call them, there's a good chance they're going to say, oh no, forget about this. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have set this appointment with you. I mean, like, there's so many reasons why you shouldn't do this. Mm-hmm. It's just like bad all the way around. It's creepy. Like if somebody did that to me, if like I had a contractor coming out to my house, or if I was going to meet with a new CPA and I was interviewing a CPA and they were like, hey, I'm swinging by, I'm swinging by CVS to pick up stuff for my kids. You want some aspirin? Like, that would be weird, right? But that's the kind of like, it's stuff that people say when they've never actually sold. And I think it was very telling that the people who responded to that post positively uniformly were either new agents or recruiters who don't sell.
Mm-hmm. Try that in Philadelphia. It won't work. You'll get,
oh my gosh,
no, that won't work.
Yeah, you'll get shot.
And here's the thing, a lot of times too, the people that are talking either don't know what they're saying, or how do I say this, they're shams. You just don't know it.
Right.
Like, there's people that have sold maybe for a few months here, then a few months there, and then a few months over here, and then they switch products, and you don't know the story behind the story. The same way that you don't know Oprah's story to success, you don't know anything about these people outside of what they're saying. And scaringly enough, if you don't know right from wrong, you don't know if you're reading right or wrong.
Right.
Like, if you decide to go work with any organization, any carrier, any company, just trust what they're saying, because that's the company you chose to work with. And if you no longer trust what they're saying, have a reckoning with your life and go work somewhere else. But if you don't trust the information you're receiving, and you know those people and they know you, why are you going to trust someone that you have no idea what they're saying? Because here's the fact, as Nick so kindly stated, it isn't just about collecting the override. It's about collecting emails from blank insurance company indicating that we have not received the $4,720 of debt from blank agent, and it is now rolled up to you as the next person in line. It's about receiving emails that say, we've attempted to collect the debt below from your agent, but have unfortunately had no success, and $1,616 of debt is now yours. Emails like this are what make building challenging, but also listening to people that have been there and done that is crucial. And if you don't know if they've been there or done that, please filter that information appropriately on social media.
Yeah. And that is the other part of building a team that I think probably gets under discussed, is if you are not financially stable, and most people aren't, like, when you're coming into this industry, especially people who are like coming in and then being told, hey, you're going to build a team and you're going to be a millionaire overnight. Most of those people are not financially stable. That's the reason why they're chasing that particular dream, right? If you're not financially stable, building a team could easily bankrupt you.
Mhm.
Like very easily. Every long-term recruiter that I have known who has more than like one or two agents, even some that only had one or two agents, has a story where they have gotten hit with a 5-figure or 6-figure dollar amount of roll-up debt.
You ready for another one?
Yeah.
Ready for another one? The above referenced agent has an outstanding debt with our carrier in the amount of $30,010.29 as of today. We have asked the following of the agent. Commissions are not sufficient to cover the outstanding debt, pay in full, or write new business. No payments have been made. Like, that's the other thing. A lot of these systems, a lot of these 4, 5, 3-letter IMOs have you building on 5-point spreads. Please explain to me how you can build the financial stability to manage. How much did I just read off? $36,000 in pending roll-ups on a freaking 5-point spread. Now, there comes a point in time where you've earned that as a builder, you've earned that as an agent, but as an agency, if you're recruiting your friend, your brother, your cousin, your uncle, and the contractor named Jim, and you're all putting them on a 5-point spread, you have no buffer to eat the $36,000 of roll-up that's next. So
yeah.
It all sounds really, really nice. But when your agent calls you at 8:30 when you're trying to spend time with your significant other and they're in tears, that's the kind of thing they don't say to you when you talk about building a team either.
Yeah.
Luckily, Joe created a tool that answers a majority of these underwriting questions, but Insurance Toolkit can't teach an agent how to budget their money, not to blow all their money. Those are things that an entrepreneur has and an employee doesn't have. So it's very complicated.
And there's skills also, right? Like learning to appropriately budget, especially when you start getting paid commission only, which is a very different way of being paid. And you're getting paid on advance, which is, you're basically being paid a loan, right? Like very different than your regular W-2 employee situation. Learning how to manage that money, learning how to budget, learning how to take care of your bills and set money aside for taxes. I cannot tell you the number of people that I have met that have gone out of business because they couldn't handle their tax liability and had to leave the business because they needed to pay their taxes. Like those are all skills that you need to learn as a new agent. They're learnable. Like everybody can learn how to do that, but it's not something you're born with. That's not baked in knowledge. And if you've got an upline who is just like barely one step ahead of you and maybe only $2 richer than you, you are in trouble as an agent. So and as a person who doesn't want to recruit, this is why. Like Chris, if that agent with the $30,000 lead debt just decides to ghost you and disappears, changes their name, moves to Alaska, what happens to that money? Does the insurance company just say, oh, well, I guess we're out $30,000?
No, that goes negative against my account. And I can tell you, here's the fun part too, just the week-to-week override. If you can't go a week without making a penny, you probably shouldn't build. What do I mean by that? Well, first off, you oftentimes need to be training an agent in their car or in your car. And a lot of times maybe that business is written for them. So if you need every app to pay every bill, you shouldn't be building. Second, you might have to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to fly out to an area and clear up leads that an agent left you. Been there, done that. Welcome to Louisiana. Great area. What's next? If you write a piece of business, the business gets issued, and then you look to see, why the hell haven't I been paid yet? Oh, okay. So I just had $600 in override chargebacks. There goes Mildred's application. If you needed that app to pay your rent, but you didn't pay it, you shouldn't be building. And yes, when that agent ghosts you and doesn't answer you when that debt becomes yours, that $30,000 goes negative on your commissions account. You have to strike an agreement with your upline, your FMO, and your carrier to pay that debt back, because you get to pay that debt back.
That's now your $30,000 of debt.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. Welcome to building a team.
Yay. But see, I'm going to give the flip side to that. if you've sold $1 million in premium, you have the skills, you have the mentorship, you have a workable sales model, you've got the core systems necessary to duplicate yourself. You should, if you're really, really good at this business, probably duplicate yourself. When I worked as a paramedic for quite a few years, one of the cultural things that was expected of you, that if you're good at your job, you teach your job to others. They give you a paramedic cadet, an EMT, a ride along, a nurse, or a doctor, and they'd expect you to teach what you're doing to other people because they know that you're good at it. To take somebody who's the best at what they do and not allow them to teach others almost was culturally selfish. So when you're good at what you do, and if you have a good system to do it, and you make the decision to do it, make that decision knowing the good, the bad, and the in-between, but at least give back to the community. Maybe you don't want to ever build a team, but you could do what Nick does, give back to the social media community with useful information. Don't just hold that back, because here's the other thing. When you teach something, you become better at doing something. When you have to teach something, you have to learn something. And when you have to learn something, you get better at doing something. So just staying in your lane and never doing anything but you might just not help you get a little bit better either.
And I'd completely agree with that. Like, and anybody who eventually wants to build, I don't have anything against them. Like, it is, having a final expense downline is not for me. It's not something that I want, but I completely understand why somebody would want that. As long as you're at the right stage in your career and you know what you're doing, I have no issues with that. And again, $1 million, sort of a provocative statement, but like the $1 million of premium is kind of a substitute for experience and time, because somebody can be doing this job for 10 years and have only written really like $100,000 in premium over the 10 years, and they don't really know what they're doing. 10 years doesn't mean anything. You can write $1 million of premium in 4 years, but if you've written $1 million of premium, you've sat in thousands of houses. There's no way around it. You've seen thousands of situations and thousands of different scenarios, and you know what's going on. And it's not just underwriting. You know the excuses, you know the smoke screens, you know what happens after stuff has fallen off a year or two down the road, and whether or not people are rewritable, and like what's a waste of time and what's not a waste of time, and how valuable your time really is. It's about knowing your job well enough to actually be able to have something to duplicate. But at that point, yeah, like you want to build a team, go build a team, go nuts. I have no problems with that. But I think you're completely right, Chris. Everybody, once they have their feet under them, even before they have their feet under them, should start trying to repeat back what they know to other people, because it does help. I know one of the things that I did when I was brand new that helped me learn underwriting, and I mean, because things like Toolkit didn't exist when I started, was, we'd have a group chat in the IMO that I have, and people would throw out like, hey, I'm in this weird situation, I don't know what to do, can anybody help? And I would, I'd see the text come in, I'd pull my car off to the side of the road, I'd read the text, I'd pull out, various applications and be like, okay, this is what it looks like, this is the right answer. And that's how I learned a large part of my underwriting, was helping kind of be that back office support for other agents. Hearing other agents recordings. I listen to agents recordings all the time. They'll send me stuff and say, hey, what do you think? And hearing what other agents sound like in the house. And it's educational for me. It's educational for everybody. And so all of that stuff, the more you can interact with other agents on that kind of that person to person level, the better off you are.
Joe, do you remember the agent hotline at the organization we worked at?
Yes, the phone that rang.
Yeah, I didn't get a dime for nearly anyone that called on that, but I enjoyed doing that because it's like what Nick said. It kept me fresh, and it helped me when you'd ask me a question on peripheral neuropathy with Life Shield. It's all those times answering other people's questions on cases and situations and nuances and comorbidities and stylistic preferences of the carrier. So what he's saying, what I'm saying, they're all very valuable tools. It's okay to help people. You don't always have to make money off of them.
Right. Sometimes the best thing that you get out of helping somebody else is your own personal growth. It's important also.
Yeah.
And one thing I guess we can end with is that people, especially online, will say the business is so easy. And I think that's kind of a farce, because if that was true, why are 90% out year one? Why are 99% out year 5? So when people talk about building a team, it's so easy. You can write all this business. The opportunity is endless. That might be true, but it's, what part of that opportunity can you, there might be a call center in Texas that's doing 300 Medicare Advantage apps a day. There might be 10,000 people a day turning 65, but what can you do to harness that opportunity? What is your lead cost to do that? How do you acquire your clients? What's your cost per act? So there's a lot more, I think, to building a team than people make it out to be. And if it was so easy, everyone would be in the business, everyone would be making tons of money, and there is a lot of opportunity, but it's not like anything else. It's not that easy, especially for people often demonize W-2 jobs. But if that was true, why are 90% of people who switch to a 1099 back to a W-2 within 5 years? I don't think, I really hate seeing that, because people make it seem like, oh, 401k is terrible. Having health insurance is awful. Having a stable salary is awful. Not everyone wants to work after 5 o'clock every day. And that's not a terrible thing, because people often say it's your own time. It's your own time. But if you don't do the work, it doesn't, like if Chris doesn't answer his emails for 3 days,
Oh God,
it's not really an option. So you can't take 2 weeks.
Oh, God.
So there's a lot of benefits, I think, to not working for yourself. It's great to work for yourself if it works for you, but there's no need to demonize people who don't want to deal with that when it's not a fit for most people.
Yeah. My wife likes to say, you have to put in 60 hours of work every week. But you get to pick the 60 hours. That's the benefit that working for yourself is. You don't have to work at like 3 o'clock on a Friday if you want to go do something else, but then you have to work on Saturday a little bit.
There's no paid time off for a 10
so right.
Absolutely. So Nick, tell the group how they can find you, tell the channel how they can find you, tell them a little bit about you to kind of give yourself a little bit more spotlight before we wrap up.
Sure. The insurance panel at gmail.com is the email address for the YouTube show. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/the insurance panel, or just search the insurance panel. You'll find us, TIP. You can find me usually on Facebook. It is my name, Nicholas Frumkin. I have a little cartoon character who looks, hang on, like this.
Pretty similar.
So you can find me usually hanging out in one of the various different insurance groups, because I have too much time on my hands apparently, and I need to keep myself busy. I'm around. If anybody wants to drop me a line, has questions, I'm happy to help or talk to anybody who's interested in talking about final expense sales.
Absolutely. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We are like, Joe, what is it? 11 people short of 1,000. I'm angry to the core it didn't happen by May 31st, but we'll get there probably by this afternoon. So 11 people shy of 1,000 subscribers. The channel has grown by hundreds over the course of the last 6 weeks. So please shoot us a comment. It helps other people see the channel that may not be subscribed and just searching insurance. A thumbs up, as my kid would say, would be a huge YouTube thing. And subscribe, we'd appreciate it as well.
Yeah, we get that $2 a month of AdSense revenue once we hit 1,000. So looking forward to hitting that milestone. So, anyway, thank you, Nick, for joining us, and we'll be back next week.
Thanks, guys.